Hey, what's up, lifelong learners? This is Heng, also known as Mr. Heng. Today we're going to be talking about the Canon EOS R. I don't have it in hand right now because I'm actually using it to record this video. I have to tell you that I am blown away by the autofocus on this thing, all the old lenses. And if you haven't seen that video, go watch that video. I'll link it in the card somewhere right here. I don't know. But anyways, let's get to some of the main points that I want to talk about for my personal usage and what my findings are, instead of giving you the specs and the details, the megapixels and the blah, blah, blah. I'm not about that. I'm about reviewing a camera that I've actually put to use. And I rented this from Sammy's Camera. Thank you so much, Sammy's Camera, for being near me and I can just go pick it up. And they seriously gave me a brand new camera that was like out of the box with a new lens, RF 24-105, which I broke, and you can catch that video maybe at the end of this link right here. So the first thing I want to talk about is the joystick. There is no joystick on the camera anymore because I think that they don't want us to accidentally pop off the joystick like my Canon 5D right here, okay? It has this joystick right here, which I've actually popped off many, many times. Let's see if I can focus on that joystick right there, okay? So that's a good and a bad. The good is that it won't pop off. The bad is that it's a little bit trickier to move your focus point around. And to be able to move your focus point around, you're gonna have to go through the menu and enable this feature that allows you to touch and drag while your face is pressed up against the camera. That touching and dragging is a plus and a minus too. It's a plus because you can actually do it, but it's a minus because it's sometimes a little slow to keep, doing this and doing that, like playing Contra, up, down, left, right, B, A, start or something like that. Yeah, and you might need 30 lives, or in this case, 30 shots to get the shot, right? Again, it can be a blessing or a curse, depending on how you see it. I actually don't mind it that much. It's just getting used to, that's all. And the next thing I want to talk about is how you have to switch from photo mode to video mode and back and forth. You have to push the mode, and then you go into menu, and then you have to push button. Like, I wish there was just like a switch. A switch would be so much faster. I mean, maybe they can reiterate that in the next generation of the Canon mirrorless cameras, especially the full frame lineup. You should bring back the switch just straight to video. But there's also a plus and a minus to that, because the plus is when you switch to photo mode, you actually have 3 custom photo modes that you can set, and then when you switch to video, you have 3 custom video modes. So that's actually a good thing, because sometimes when you're switching between just 3 customizable switches back in the days, like right here, okay, again, the Canon 5D, you only have 3 custom modes. And when you only have 3 custom modes and you're a hybrid shooter, it makes it slower. So I guess it's good and bad to have to press the mode and then go into video mode or photo mode. I guess Canon is thinking, hey, we should make this more video-centric or photo-centric, but also give them each their lane instead of trying to mix the two. I'm a hybrid shooter. I would like to be able to switch faster. That's all, I'm just saying. Oh, one of my favorite features is actually the lock mode, which is funny because, I mean, sometimes, you want to lock just certain things, and the lock mode allows you to customize your locking, which dial and which buttons you want to lock, which is really interesting. You can even lock the touch screen, which is like, for me, I know some people might think that's annoying, but I think it's actually really good that Canon actually did that. Okay, this camera, because of its swivel screen, it feels like my GH5. I mean, even my student, he was like, oh, let me touch that camera. And he picked it up and he was like, it feels like the GH5. And I was like, yeah, that swivel screen is awesome, isn't it? And the Canon EOS R is actually lighter than the GH5, which is quite interesting. But then again, full frame lenses are crazy, crazy heavy compared to this 50mm equivalent 1.2. I mean, look at the size of this thing. Can you imagine this versus the new 50 RF lens? I mean, that thing is gigantic. And the price point is double this Olympus right here. So yeah, that's kind of why I walked away from full frame. So I don't know, we'll see. I might go back to the EOS R and use it as my talking head camera because the autofocus is Yeah. If you're a GH5 user, you would know the struggles of autofocus. The next thing is probably my favorite feature in the Canon EOS R. It's to be able to adjust the turning focus to any direction you want, and the zooming in any direction you want, and they went even further and allow you to adjust focus by wire regarding the degree at which you turn or the actual speed at which you turn the ring to focus. So there are pros and cons to both, and there are situations where you want to switch it back and forth. I would totally recommend putting this in your customizable menu. Now, the degree and turn is basically the slower you turn, the slower it focuses, but it keeps focusing. But sometimes when you're doing the focus by wire and you're turning real slow, sometimes it doesn't focus at all. And that's the drawback to the focus by wire style of focusing. But also, sometimes the drawback of turning by degree is that because it's based on the degree at which you turn, the focusing might not be fast enough for your shooting situation. So like I said, there are pros and cons to both, and you just have to know when it's appropriate to use which type of manual focus. And the other thing that they put in here was peaking. Whoa! Canon, finally, peaking? Now, if you can just get some zebra stripes on there, or some, RGB parade or something like that, you know what I mean? I would be all in. Oh, one more thing. Waveform monitor. Like the GH5, yeah? I get it. You have your cinema line that you gotta protect. However, those are such basic things, but I get it. This is a photography camera. Video is a second thought, and I get it. But still, I'm paying a lot of money for it, right? Assuming if I buy it. Convince me. Come up with a firmware update. All right, just like the GH5, the headphone jack and the mic jack are right here, which means if you put something there and try to flip the screen, it'll get blocked. Why did you not learn that lesson from the Panasonic GH5 and all the other Panasonic cameras? Come on, Canon, what are you thinking? Put it on top or something. I don't know. I don't know. Put it somewhere where it's like not in the way of the swivel screen. But thank you for the swivel screen. Speaking of swivel screen, this screen at certain angles when the sun hits it, it's just useless. I found it to be mostly useful. But sometimes, like those 5%ers, or maybe even 1%ers for some of you, because you don't shoot in full sun. I don't mind, I shoot in any condition. I couldn't see my screen, so I had to adjust my angle and swivel the screen around. So again, it goes back to the swivel screen just being extremely useful. I love it. I love the swivel screen. Regarding image quality, the Canon EOS R is awesome. I mean, I took pictures of my family while we were at Mammoth. Again, that's the reason why I rented this camera, is to be able to take better photos, and it delivered, man. The Canon color, the megapixels, it's just right. The size feels good. It's just like a good working photography camera. I know for you video folks out there, you're like, oh, well, the specs this, the specs that. And I'm like, again, you have to consider that this is a photography camera, not a video camera. And I get it, we want everything as a consumer, but there's only so much that the producer can give us for the price that we're paying for. And I know, I get it, there's so many video features that I want as well, but it's probably never gonna happen. Not with Canon, at least. And the other cool thing is being able to focus extremely close with the 10 to 18 lens. I mean, that lens is a cheap, nice little wide angle vlogger lens, that works. It just works. It's not good in low light, and the image quality does drop because it's not L glass. But to be able to focus so close and touch focus another spot was insane on the swivel screen. I mean, I did it inside my Airbnb, and it was awesome. It was just great. Vlogging with it was fun for a day. But then the size of the camera is just too big. I went straight back to my GoPro vlog because it's just fun to stick it everywhere I want. I put it up against magnetic stuff, and I talk to the camera at a different angle. I put it low. With the Canon EOS R, I can't just do that. even with, again, the 10 to 18, it's vlogging with this camera, it's not for me. It's definitely a camera for like a talking head video with nice autofocus. And I know some people might say, try the Sonys. I mean, they got great autofocus. But I'm not in the Sony. I don't like their color science. It just, right out of the box, I just don't like it. I don't really like color grading at all. I mean, I'll color correct and exposure correct, but I don't color grade. So it is what it is, right? To each their own. Another feature that I really like about this camera is being able to start recording while you're in photo mode. The GH5 actually has that feature too. And when you're shooting in photo mode manually, you can switch to manual video right away. The Panasonic was like, whoa, cool. And then the Canon actually does that too, which is kind of cool too, but I only been able to do it in program mode and not in manual mode. Even though I'm shooting in photo manual mode and I tried to use video features right away instead of having to switch back and forth between photo mode or video mode on the Canon EOS R, I was recording video in program mode even though I was in manual mode for photos. So I'm a little bit confused there. Is there a way, maybe you guys can tell me down below in the comments, that I can record while in photo mode but in manual video mode? Okay, so here's where I think the Panasonic did a better job than the Canon EOS R is when you are doing time-lapse. And Canon only gives you one time-lapse mode and it goes straight to video. Whereas the Panasonic GH5, it allowed me to do photo time-lapse and then it saves all the photos for me, or it can do straight video only, or you can do both, which is amazing. You can save the photos and you can export a video right away onto your SD card, which Canon, come on. It's not like you haven't seen the GH4 do this. I mean, come on, Canon. Just give it to us. I mean, that's just a feature you can just write a software for or put it in the firmware update. I don't know. Do it. Make it happen. I'll buy this camera if you make that happen. Because what I like to do is I like to put it on that photo mode and then I just do stuff with my wife and my dog and then we get like these nice photos because we're just like doing our thing naturally. And I mean, like, there's a bunch of photos to look through, but I can capture that. That's an option for me, for someone like me who's like a one-man banding it. You know, I don't want to hire another photographer to take photos for me. Well, I can do it myself. I mean, who's going to go with me to Mammoth and take my photos for me? Think about it. Think about it, Ken. Think about it. And the other thing about time-lapse mode is that you cannot use the Wi-Fi feature while doing time-lapse mode. Why not? I mean, like, it's got to be like a firmware thing, you know? It can't be that hard to do. Of course, I don't know coding, so I'm just saying that is something that you should be able to write a code for, put it into your firmware, and be like, bam, y'all, you got this. We were giving it to you. Make it happen, please, please. Here's the most interesting thing that I found is that I adapted my Rokinon EF mount, full manual lens, and could not take a photo with the Canon adapter. Why? Is there a firmware coming out for that? I mean, all the old lenses work, the legacy Canon lenses, but my Rokinon 14mm f2.8 EF mount, full manual lens, does not work with the adapter. That is interesting to me. I don't know what's going on there, so if you know how to do that, please leave it in the comment section below because I'm actually very curious about that. I actually want to make it work out, or else I'd have to sell this lens and then buy the camera, which I'd scratch. I probably mentioned this before, but the EFS lenses and the L lenses produce different quality. You get what you pay for, so do consider that. But the best part is the EFS lenses, they're plasticky, they're so light, and sometimes you just want to get the shot and you don't care so much about the quality. I actually did that with my dogs on this highway. I tried a 14, it didn't work out, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put on that 10 to 18 and take a photo. And it worked out. So it was great, it was great. But at the same time, I'm like, well, why can't I just put this 14mm on and just make it work? The next thing I want to talk about is a hated but useful quality of the video feature, which is 4K crop. Yes, I get it. I know. Why can't we have 4K, blah, 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 blah. Why is this stupid thing crop, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, 4K crop is a good feature and a bad feature. For those of you who like to shoot video and don't want to do the math and everything like that because it's full frame, 4K crop is useful for when you're trying to get closer to something. If you're an APS-C Canon camera user, you would know that this 4K crop can help you get, not 4K crop, but the crop feature can actually help you get closer to something. Like for me, I was going on this hike and then there was this Hot Creek geological site at Mammoth that I was just like, oh, well, I can't get that close, but I know that when I'm shooting 4K, I can actually get closer. So normally I shoot at 1080 because it's just, you know, takes up so much space to record in 4K and all that, and editing it on my Mac is just like super slow and I don't want to deal with that. So that's why I only record in 1080p, which is great. I think the quality is still great in 1080p. You just take this, you know, 4K sensor or 6K sensor and you smash it down to like 1080 and it's like looks super clean. So as long as you light well, right? And it's also a drawback if you're not trying to do wide, like if you're vlogging or whatever and trying to do 4K vlogging, it's not going to be your friend, put it that way. But it is my friend because I could get closer to something that I know I need to stay away from. It's a plus and a minus depending on how you see things, you know what I mean? So it's a plus and a minus. Okay, so here's the most interesting thing that I did was I took the iPad Pro 2018 with me. I did not take a laptop when I went to Mammoth. I wanted to be let's say I had to take all these gigantic full frame lenses with me, right? And so I decided I'm not going to take a laptop because that's going to be more weight, so I'm going to take this iPad Pro. And the most interesting thing I found was that the iPad Pro could not import the 4K time-lapse. It imported all the other videos I shot except for the 4K time-lapse. So what makes me question now is what codec is Canon using to write this 4K time-lapse? So, or to wrap, if you want to get all geeky, this 4K format. What kind of file system are you using? If you know, please leave it in the comment section below. If I haven't researched it yet, you know, let me know. I don't understand why the iPad Pro cannot play that format, and Apple's like, oh, you know, it's better than all these blah blah blah. But when I play it on my iMac, it's fine. So that's another issue for Apple. Yeah. The other interesting thing that I found was the iPad could not read the photos that I took with the 10 to 14, but all the other lenses that I took with me, I was able to import it directly from my camera into the iPad Pro, and then the iPad Pro was like, can't play that photo for you. Well, why can't you play it back for me? I don't know, iPad. You're supposed to be like this top of the line technology right now, but you're not able to play that file back for me? That makes no sense because this is an older lens and you're like a brand new technology thingamajig that should work. I don't get it. So I don't understand why that's not working, but all the other lenses are fine. The Canon 85 1.2, the 24 to 70 version 2 2.8, the 70 to 200 version 2 2.8, and the 24 to 105 RF lens, it all worked. GoPro all worked. I just don't understand that. I don't know why. If you know, leave it in the comment section below, please. Thank you. I much appreciate that. All right, well, I'm gonna end this video here. Those are just my findings personally in like a week of using this camera. Again, I like it, but I don't know if it's for me yet, because I'm still wondering about the new Panasonic full frame cameras and see if their features are gonna be better than the EOS R. But I'll tell you right now, if I had to buy a camera that's on the market that is a full frame, mirrorless, with amazing autofocus, it would be this camera right here, because I've tested all these lenses with the Canon adapter and it works. It just works. It's loud, but it works. And the key to that loudness is to use a wireless lav right here. Okay, use a wireless lav and then you'll solve that problem. Because right now I'm recording with the Canon 50mm 1.8 first generation. I'm not talking about those STM quiet lenses. No, no, no. This lens is loud because the autofocus system is not the USM system. So without further to say, I just want to leave you with a rock, paper, peace. Let's hang out again in the next video, and please buy from the links below if you're planning to buy this camera, because again, I need to pay for the lens that I broke. Yeah. Thank you.